So we continue on with our reading of Mark, and this is, we're up to Mark chapter 2. So we begin with a participle, kai es elthon. This is the participle from erchomai. The aorist is aelthon, and so this is the elth unaugmented root and turned into a participle from eis erchomai. So, and having entered Palin again into Capernaum, Dehemeron, which means after some days. There's various phrases in classical Greek with dia plus a time element, like diektion, after some years, or diachronu, after some time, which is common in Plato and Thucydides. So it's a perfectly good phrase, after some days. Literally, it was heard. So it was reported, it was heard that he is en oiko, he is at home. This oikos is presumably the oikos, the home of Peter and Andrew, which seems to have been a base for Jesus' activities. And poloi mini sun eik thesan. This is from sun ago, to gather. So this is the aorist passive form here. So many were gathered, hosty plus infinitive, and we have it negated by may or maketi here. This is may plus eti, no longer, and hosty plus infinitive. This is a slightly awkward phrase. Korein means to contain, so to have room for, and then this is almost parenthetical here, almost a bit of an afterthought. So it's literally so as no longer to contain, so no longer to be any room, not even for ta prosthuran, ta very vague here, for the area near the door. So that not even at the area near the door was there any longer any room. So it's no longer to make room, not even at the area near the door. The Greek is slightly odd expression here, but that's what it is. Kai elale, and he says to them, so this is imperfect from laleo, so and it's imperfect, so it's often we translate he began to, and he began to say, to log on the word to them. He began to speak the word to them. Kai erkontai pherontes, and they come, the historic present, as I mentioned before. Mark's very fond of historic presents, and they come bringing to him paralutikon, a paralyzed man, iromenon, this is from iro, this is the passive present, being lifted up, hupot tesseron, by 4 men. Kai me dunaminoi, pros enenkai, and not being able. Now this is from prosphero, to bring to. This is from prosphero. Now the aorist of prosphero is phero, the aorist is einenkon, and you unaugment, you get the stem enenk, which is what we're getting here. Now this is a strong aorist form, and you'd expect anenkain for the infinitive, but instead they give you a weak aorist infinitive, and you'll see from the apparatus criticus there is an alternate reading down here. Anyway, reading what's here, but this often happens in later Greek, where the strong aorist becomes, it takes weak aorist endings in infinitive and other forms. So not being able to bring, understand the paralyzed man to him, diatonoklon, on account of the crowd, apestega santein stegain. Now, the stegain is the roof. There's a classical word stegos as well, but so literally they unroofed the roof. So they removed the roof. Hopu ain, where he was. Kai oruk santes, this is from ex oruso, sorry, from ek, or ex oruso. Oruso is to dig. So this might be something like gouging out, making a hole in the roof. But it's a fairly vague word, but quite a strong word. So gouging out a hole, you understand, in the roof. Kalosin, this is from kalao. Kalao is to make slack or loose. So here it has the sense of let down. So he's presumably on ropes, and kalao is in the sense of letting down the ropes. So they let down the krabaton. Krabatos is said to be a Macedonian word. It doesn't appear in the Septuagint, but it is used in the New Testament for it's a bit like a bed, or a stretcher probably would be closest in English. So they let down the stretcher where the paralyzed man kateketai was lying. Better Greek would have said on which, but Mark's Greek is often quite fairly vague, and it's not terribly precise. So they let down the stretcher literally where, or we'd say on which, the paralyzed man was lying. Kai idon ho Jesus, and Jesus having seen, this is idon, aorist participle from adon, having seen their faith, he says, historic present, to the paralyzed man, Teknon, my child, my son, the sins of you, aphientai, are forgiven. Your sins are forgiven. This there's often perhaps an unfortunate link between sickness and sin in the ancient world, and we'll see a little bit of this here. So the point being that he's paralysed because of some sin, which is the way the ancients often thought about sickness. So your sins are forgiven. Es andetines, there were, when you get the verb to be early in the sentence, you often translate it as preparatory. So there were then, and there were tines, certain ones of the grammation. This is from grammateus, when you're looking it up. These are the scribes. So there were some of the scribes, eke, there, kathemenoi, participle from kathemai, sitting, so sitting there, and dialogizomenoi, literally dialoguing, or so debating, in their hearts, and as cardiais, debating in their hearts. Tir, so the heart was thought of in this point of time as the source of thought and intention. Oddly enough, and often in the Septuagint, the Hebrew word for heart is sometimes, occasionally translated by cardia, but often by dianoia, which is more thoughts and things. But in the New Testament, cardia is seen as a source of thought for and intentions of someone. So debating in your hearts, tit, what, or why. I'll see what it is. So they say, why, hutos, does this man lale, or what, why does this man lale speak hutos in this way? Why does this man speak thus? Blaspheme, he blasphemes. In the Septuagint, it's only ever used of blasphemy against God. The root meaning is not that secure as to what the etymology of this is. It seems to mean to defame, to speak ill of. So blasphemy against God is often seen as to assert some attribute of God which is not true. Anyway, he blasphemes. Tis dunatai aphianai hamatias. who is able, aphianai is the infinitive from aphiemi, which is a word meaning to forgive in biblical Greek. It sometimes has that meaning in classical Greek, but it means to release or to let go. So who is able to forgive sins, ame, except, literally one God, except the one God. We could put it into English. And it's a question. Kai euthus, there's another one of our euthuses. We've got lots of these in Mark. It's one of his favourite words. And immediately, Jesus, Jesus, epignus, from epiginomai. Sorry, I should say epignosko. Epignosko. In classical Greek, it's gignosko. In biblical Greek, it's just gnosko. Sorry, that's not right. It's ginosko. Ginosko. In classical Greek, it's gignosko. So in classical Greek, you get epigignosko, which is in fact, that's the epi. This is a reduplication here, and there's the stem gno, which our word no comes directly, or well, is connected with etymologically. In biblical Greek, it's epiginosko, and this is the aorist participle. And immediately Jesus, recognizing in his spirit, hoti, that they were debating, they were discussing hutos in this way, en hiautois, among themselves, lege, historic present, he says to them, Titauta dialogizeste, why do you debate these things in your heart? Repetition of what we've had before. Ti estin eukopoteron. This is from eukopos, and this is the comparative. Now the rule is, of course, with this, because this is a short vowel, then the linking vowel is a long omega. If that was a long vowel, this would be an omicron here. So it's eukopos, easy, and this is easier. So what is easier? We would put a semicolon or something here in English, or a colon, to say to the paralyzed man, your sins are forgiven, or apain infinitive, to say, imperative egere, raise, get up, kai aron, this is from iro, and this is the aorist, this is the weak aorist imperative. So arise and take up, lift up, ton crabaton, su your bed or your stretcher, kai peripate, and walk. And this is an imperative. It's from peripatio, to walk. So it would be peripate, and then the imperative, you add on another epsilon, and this contracts to an A, and the accent's going to go there. So arise, take up your bed and walk. This is slightly awkward but quite common, but in order that you might know that the Son of Man has exousian, authority to forgive sins, epites ges, upon the earth, he says to the paralyzed man, I say to you, rise up, take up your bed and depart into your house, another imperative. And egerthe, from egero, it's that same verb we had here, literally it's passive, so he was helped up, he was caused to get up, and immediately aras, from iro again, aorist participle, having taken up his bed, he went out in front of them, so that all were amazed, and so it's hosty plus some infinitives, so that all ex histastai were amazed and glorified God, saying, hoti recitative, thus never have we seen, we have never seen such a thing, we have never seen thus.